everyone, my name is Mini Sethi. I hope you all are staying healthy. Today we are going to talk about classical theory of employment and output. Classical theory of employment and output is given by group of economists including Adam Smith, J.B. Say, J.S. Mill, Ricardo, Marshall and Pigou. Classical economists believed existence of full employment in economy. Classical economists believed existence of full employment in economy. According to them, full employment is normal situation of economy. That's why economy naturally move towards a full employment in long time period. If there is unemployment, then it will be automatically correct through adjustment in prices and wages. Because this theory assumes prices and wages are flexible. That's why prices and wages can adjust quickly to change in demand and supply. Now we'll see assumptions. Full employment in economy, laissez-faire policy, that means no government intervention. Closed economy, that means no international trade. Perfect competition in market. Labor is homogeneous, that means all labors are same in terms of their ability. Total output is divided into two parts, consumption expenditure and investment expenditure. Money is only medium of exchange. Wages and prices are flexible. Savings are automatically invested. That's why saving is equal to investment. Capital stock and technical knowledge are given. Classical theory of employment and output mainly include six concepts: Say's law of market, determination of output and employment, labor market equilibrium, wage price flexibility, goods market equilibrium and money market equilibrium. One by one we discuss about each concept. First of all, we will see Say's law of market. According to Say's law of market, supply creates its own demand. According to Say's law of market, supply creates its own demand. That means whatever goods we produce, it will be demanded. There is no problem of overproduction. But how it can possible? Suppose a firm do production. Production represents supply. In order to produce goods, firm need land, labor and capital. For land, firm pay rent. For labor, firm pay wages. For capital, firm pay interest and earn lot of profit. Rent, wages, interest and profit are income of economy. With this income, people do demand for goods and services which are produced by firm. Or we can say that with this income, people create demand in economy. So here you can see supply creating its own demand, and this is Say's law of market. Supply creates its own demand. That means whatever goods we produce, it will be demanded. There is no problem of overproduction. According to Say's law of market, production is primarily driver of income as businesses produce goods and services, pay wages, create jobs, generate profit. All these income create demand in economy. So supply creates its own demand according to Say's law of market. Now we will see determination of output and employment. In classical theory, output and employment are determined by production function. Q represent total output, K represent capital stock, T represent technical knowledge, N represent number of workers. In this theory, we assume K and T are constant, so output is only function of number of workers. Initially, as worker increase, output also increase, but after some time period, workers are still increasing, but output start reducing because diminishing margin return on labor starts. In this diagram, on x-axis we have employment, y-axis we have output. This curve shows production function. Initially, as we are increasing employees, our output is increasing, but after certain time period, our output start reducing because diminishing margin return on labor starts. Now we will see labor market equilibrium. In labor market, demand for labor and supply of labor determined level of output and employment. In labor market, demand for labor and supply of labor determined level of employment and output. According to classical economists, demand for labor is function of real wages. DL represent demand for labor, W over P represent real wages. W represent money wages, P represent price. So demand for labor is function of real wages. Real wages and demand for labor have an inverse relation. That means as real wages increase, demand for labor fall. As real wages fall, demand for labor increase. Similar, supply of labor is function of real wages. But supply of labor and real wages have positive relation. As real wages increase, supply of labor also increase. As real wages fall, supply of labor also fall. On x-axis we have employment and y-axis we have real wages. DL represent labor demand, SL represent labor supply. E is our equilibrium point, OW is equilibrium wages and ON is equilibrium level of employment. Now we will see wage price flexibility. According to classical theory, there is existence of full employment in economy. According to classical theory, there is existence of full employment in economy. If there is unemployment, then economy will automatically achieve full employment through adjustment in prices and wages, because prices and wages are flexible. But how? As we know, in case of full employment, labor demand is equal to labor supply. Now we assume there is no full employment, labor supply is more than labor demand. If labor supply is more than labor demand, that means more people want to work, but businesses don't have so much jobs for people. As a result, wages reduce. As wages reduce, cost of production reduce. As cost of production reduce, prices reduce, demand increase, production increase, employment increase, labor demand increase. Eventually, labor demand become equal to labor supply. So here we can see our wages and prices are flexible. That's why economy is able to achieve full employment level. Now we will see a diagram of wage price flexibility. Here we have two diagrams which are interconnected. On horizontal side we have employment. Vertical side we have real wages. LD labor demand, LS labor supply. And this MP curve shows marginal product of labor. E is our full employment point, because at this E point labor demand is equal to labor supply. And equilibrium wages are W over P and equilibrium employment is ON. Now suppose our wages increase from W over P to W over P1. At higher wages, labor supply will exceed than labor demand. Now we have DS, excess supply of labor. And excess supply of labor will lead to reduction in wage rate. Eventually we will achieve full employment level again. Now suppose our wages reduce from W over P to W over P2. At less wages, labor demand exceeds than labor supply. Now we have KT, excess labor demand. Excess labor demand lead to increase in wage rate. Eventually we will achieve full employment level again. So here you can see, because our wages are flexible, that's why economy is easily able to achieve full employment point. Now we will see goods market equilibrium. Goods market is in equilibrium when saving is equal to investment. Goods market is in equilibrium when saving is equal to investment. If there is divergence between saving and investment, then through interest rate we can maintain equality. Or we can say that if saving is not equal to investment, then by adjusting interest rate we can make a saving equal to investment. But how? In this diagram, on x-axis we have saving and investment, y-axis we have interest rate. This curve represents investment, this curve represents saving. E is our equilibrium point, because at this point saving is equal to investment and OR is equilibrium interest rate. Now suppose interest rate increase from R to R1. At higher interest rate, saving will exceed than investment. Obviously, at higher interest rate, people want to save their money in banks, but investors don't want to invest. As a result, interest rate will fall. Eventually, we will achieve this equilibrium point E again, where saving is equal to investment. Now, suppose interest rate fall from R to R0. At lower interest rate, investment exceeds than saving. People don't want to save in banks because of low interest rate, but investors want to take more loans. As a result, interest rate increase again, and eventually we will achieve this E point where saving is equal to investment. So here you can see saving will always equal to investment. If there is any divergent between saving and investment, then through interest rate we can again maintain equality between saving and investment. Now we'll see money market equilibrium. According to classical economists, change in money supply cannot affect output, but it can affect prices. According to classical economists, change in money supply cannot affect output, but it can affect prices. In order to explain this, classical economists use Fisher equation. MV equal to PT. M represent money supply, V represent velocity of money, P represent prices, T represent volume of transaction of goods and services. Here we assume V and T are constant, so M is equal to P, or we can say that P is a function of M. That means prices depend on money supply. As money supply increase, prices increase. As money supply fall, prices fall. Obviously, as money supply increase, demand for goods and services also increase. Eventually, it will lead to increase in price. So, we can say that as money supply increase, prices increase, money supply fall, prices fall. On x-axis, we have prices, y-axis, we have output. This MV and MV1 curve represent our money supply. Initial equilibrium point is E. As our money supply increase from MV to MV1, same proportion our prices also increase P to P1. So we can say that prices depend on money supply. As money supply increase, prices also increase, but our output is constant OQ. So we can say that according to classical economists, change in money supply cannot affect output, but it can affect prices. Now we'll see criticism. Unrealistic assumption of full employment. According to classical theory, there is existence of full employment in economy, but in reality, most of the time existence of unemployment, not full employment. This theory only focus on supply side and ignore demand side, but Keynesian theory mainly focus on demand side, especially effective demand. Keynes reject Say's law of market. Classical believed on Say's law of market, supply creates its own demand. But according to Keynes, supply don't create its own demand. There is lack of effective demand. There is no wages and price flexibility. Sometimes wages are sticky, prices are rigid. This theory focus on long run. What's about short run? Laissez-faire policy. That means no government intervention, but government intervention are must for economy. There is no automatic adjustment between saving and investment. There is need for intervention of central bank and government. Unrealistic assumption of perfect competition and closed economy. This theory is based on unrealistic assumption of perfect competition and closed economy. International trade also very important, and there is not always perfect competition in economy. Labor are not always homogeneous. This theory believes labors are homogeneous, but labors are not always homogeneous. There is difference in ability of labors. And according to this theory, money is only medium of exchange, but Keynes criticize money is not only medium of exchange. Money actually impact our real output. So this is all about classical theory of income and employment. I think you got it, and thank you so much for watching this video. Bye. Take care.